All right, I guess I will get started. So, hello, I'm Nicholas. I'm a 16-year-old high school graduate. I'm currently just developing things on my own at home, working on whatever projects I feel like working on. When yesterday, I introduced myself to the organizers and asked if I could do a presentation. So this entire thing was assembled in the last 24 hours, so bear with me if I slip up on my words or whatever. Yeah. So today I'm going to talk to you about making rapid prototypes with ChatGPT. So the original idea, or the entire idea behind this presentation, comes from a book called The Society of Mind by Marvin Minsky. And the entire thesis for this book is that by having multiple agents that do not have any kind of intelligence themselves, if they are to self-organize and work together, each on their own individual tasks, if there are enough of them, they can reach a higher form of intelligence, even though none of them individually have their own kind of intelligence. And so after reading this book, I got like 20, 30 pages in and immediately thought of ChatGPT. The way I look at GPT 3.5 is that it's actually quite stupid still. It can do some things with text processing, but it's still incredibly limited to the specific data that it has analyzed and has learned from. And so I've noticed that you can basically get it to do a one-step task fairly easily. So you can tell it to do one thing that doesn't require much thinking, it's just one step to do. Then if you get multiple instances of ChatGPT and chain them together, so the output of one becomes the input of the next with another prompt surrounding it, they can actually accomplish much more complicated tasks than just a single instance of GPT 3.5, and I would even say GPT 4. And so I believe this is like the entire concept behind LangChain, but I've never actually looked at LangChain, and I started doing this before learning about LangChain, and so all of my stuff is just hard-coded, and so what I'm about to show you is definitely not the best way to do this. It's just a way to throw things together and get things working. I'm going to show you some diagrams, so I made this quick legend so you understand what's happening. This is the user, so the user will be sending messages and receiving messages. These two boxes are GPT instances. The green ones are with context, the red ones are without it. And so generally, what I mean with and without context is that the green ones actually remember the past conversations. The red ones are reinitialized every single time they're prompted. It's just new. This gray box just means not GPT, because sometimes it's better to just write code for something and actually not leave that up to a large language model to do. And then there are a few different types of connections, but I will move on to the first project. So here's a quick demo. This is just an embedded GIF of my own code interpreter that I wrote before the actual code interpreter was rolled out to ChatGPT Plus users. So I asked it to display a 25 by 25 Perlin noise map as a 3D heat map, generates a description, makes a script, and then executes it and gets it working. And this is all working with just a few different basic GPT 3.5 instances. It might actually be GPT 4 in this case. And there's actually another quick thing that I posted on Twitter that I was not able to embed into this, but there was another part to this project that included a few more instances that allowed it to self-correct its own code. So here, it's going to quickly write something. I ask it to map out data from a specific CSV in my folder. It does whatever this is. This is not good. And so I ask it to do it again using a scatter plot instead of whatever the other thing was. And it's actually going to make a mistake in the code. It's going to return an error and then self-correct, rewrite the script, and then run it again. So here's the error. It's feeding it back into the generator. And refining, and here's the plot. So let's go back to the slide deck. Here's how this is mapped out. So this code interpreter is just 3 different instances of GPT-4 in this case. One of them was like a conversation. This is like base GPT-4 that's just talking back and forth with the user. There was one that was specifically made to generate scripts, and one last one that was specifically prompted to debug scripts and explain why errors are happening. And so all of these, there's nothing like complex happening under the hood. The conversation context is literally just you're a helpful assistant. If you need a script written to complete a task better, put the description of your script within 2 tags, and then it'll be run for you and you'll get the output. And so when it wants to run a script, it has a script tag, and then that's passed on to the generator. The generator, once again, it's very simple context. It's just you're a Python developer, only output code, and then when it gets a script description, it's just do the following. Here's a description, think through this line by line, only answer with code. And then its output would just be fed down to an executor. And in Python, this is very simple to do because of the exec command, which you can feed a string into this method, and it just runs whatever that string is as Python code. And then depending on the output, if it runs successfully, it's just given back to the conversation, and it can incorporate it in its response. If it doesn't, and there's an error, then it's sent to the debugger, which has the exact same initialization context as the first one, but it's cleared every time, and its entire job is just to explain the error message, and then suggest 5 ways to fix it. And its explanation is sent right back to the generator so that it can incorporate its past script with the suggestions for how to fix it, and through this iterative process, it can write something successful, and then the conversation can incorporate the output and respond back to the user with something that regular GPT-4 would not be able to do. On to the next project. This is a GitHub reader, and I actually thought that this existed, and I was looking it up, and I couldn't find it anywhere, so I made it. This is, you basically just give it a GitHub link, and then it analyzes the different files, and then you can ask it questions about the repository, and it will respond with info from the different scripts in that repository. Now this demo is using a three file repository, so it's a very small thing. And this is why these are prototypes. I tried this on bigger repositories, it just crashed because it couldn't handle it. But in smaller repositories, using just a few instances of ChatGPT, you can ask it questions and it'll find the best file to answer that question, analyze it, and then answer your question based on the script. So let's go back to the slide deck again. Here's the diagram for this one. So the user would ask a question, and it doesn't actually go to the conversation immediately. Whatever the user's question is, it immediately goes to a GPT instance whose entire job is to find the most useful file in the entire directory to answer that question. So it's given the entire directory, so just a list of file names, and then it's asked to pick the most relevant file. Next, that file, the contents are handed out to another instance whose entire job is to answer whether the information within this file is sufficient to answer the question. If the answer is yes, awesome, you can use it and answer the user's question with that file. If no, then you go back to the directory search and you do this again and again until you find the correct file. I won't go into the specifics of each one of these because I do want to leave a bit of time for questions at the end. One more project to show you before I wrap this up is here's a quick YouTube demo, and I'll actually speed it up to 1.5. This is one of the latest projects that I have been working on, and is slightly more in depth. Is there audio? I don't think so. Okay, I'll just read over it. So I'm just talking with it, I'm asking it to introduce itself. It introduces itself as Muse, the personal assistant, and then I ask it to list out the skills that it currently has the abilities to do. It provides a list. So for example, it can add content to a file, can read emails, can retrieve emails, it can play YouTube videos. And now what I'm doing is I'm asking it to write a new command that allows it to search Wikipedia using the built-in Wikipedia library in Python. And so once I'm done describing all of that and I stop shaking my phone everywhere, then it takes a few minutes, not a few minutes, but like 30 seconds to process what I ask it to do. Writes a new command, uses one of its built-in commands to add a new command to itself. It says, I've successfully added a Wikipedia command, and so now I'm asking it to try it. Can you tell me about Albert Einstein? It fetches Wikipedia contents, answers my question. Now the next step is I just ask it to list its skills again, and within that list, there's a new skill that is now there that was not there before. And it is searching for a Wikipedia page. So this assistant basically just added a new skill to itself that it did not know how to do before. Let me close this tab. Okay, and I would show you the diagram for this, but I don't have one. Instead, I have a 61-page PDF that you can access by scanning this QR code, which brings you to a Notion page with all the GitHub links, all of the demos I showed you, and access to the PDF. Actually, now that I'm saying this, I think I forgot to embed it in the page, so I'll do that right after this presentation. But it is a step-by-step walkthrough on how you can implement everything that I just showed in this video. So thank you for coming to my presentation. I now have time for questions. We have 8 minutes. So does anyone have any questions?
I missed your intro. Could you say your name and where you're from again?
I'm Nicholas. I'm from Ottawa, Ontario. I recently graduated from high school. I'm currently on a gap year, just building out things that I'm interested in doing. Anything else? Awesome. Then we can wrap up early and you guys can go talk to more interesting people out there. So thank you very much for coming. It's just my first and last name, so Nicolas Gassien. I post daily videos. Right now, they're very improvised. I hold up my phone and just record whatever I'm thinking about or whatever latest update I have on a project, and I post it on YouTube. And so I have a small following of people who regularly watch my videos just to see what I'm up to. While I've been here, I've still been posting videos. They haven't been update videos. They've just been like thought videos or just whatever I'm thinking about, and I post it. But once I get back home, I'll get back to actually programming and reading and posting things. Yes?
What are you excited about building next?
Currently, I'm building a research assistant that finds research papers for you and finds just useful resources depending on your project. So you basically give it a project description, and then there's a specific website called Archive that's where I find most of my research papers. And there's a ton of research papers uploaded every single day. So the first step that I'm trying to implement is to get it to sort through all of those papers, find the ones that are most applicable to my project right now, and then the next morning send me an email with those papers. But the end goal is to have it be like a recommendation algorithm that just finds useful resources for you instead of like Instagram or TikTok where it just shows you what's most entertaining. I want to make something that's more like it sends you an email in the morning and it's just here's a ton of resources that are applicable to what you're doing right now. I've scoped these out for you. I know they're useful. Choose the ones you actually want to read through. Yes?
I love that you're doing a gap year. Do you have a plan? Do you have any idea what you're going to do gap year?
With my gap year?
No, after.
After. I'm taking a second gap year. I'm going to Australia with one of my friends for a few months because he's taking diving lessons and wanted to split rent on an apartment, and I went, hell yeah. So I'm going with him there. Then after that, I might go to university. I'm not sure yet. It depends what the next 2 years, what I'm able to produce within the next 2 years, and we'll see what happens. Anything else? Awesome. Thank you so much.
No, because I have yeah, no, I